Yo, Elliot, I have never had sex in my life. I'm at a place where I would like to experience it and throw myself out there, entering the sexual marketplace, but I'm having a hard time doing so. From my teenage years up until now, many girls have shown interest in me, but I never returned it, not even to the girls I liked. I have always avoided it, and it caused me many problems on the way to this day, especially in social settings. I believe that I have some deeper rooted fear in me. I believe it's fear of failure, fear of being vulnerable, fear of not being good enough, fear of the unknown. I feel like I have this barrier or block that I have to overcome. I know I can overcome it, but I don't know how. But years back, then I was very anxious, stressed, and I had some personal problems. Today, I'm stronger and in a better place. Also, lately I've been talking with a woman a few years younger than me who I would like to ask out. But I feel this problem is holding me back, lack of experience. Do I need to work on myself or just throw myself out there and eventually get hurt? Bang some random chick? Or should I wait for someone who's more right for the solution? Do you have any advice? I would love to hear your opinion. So the first thing that comes to my mind with regard to this is that if you want to have the power, you got to do the thing. If you want to have the power, you got to do the thing. A lot of times we try to get the power before we do the thing, right? Like school has taught us that you need to study before you take the test, but it doesn't work that way in life. In order to learn how to pass the test, you take the test. You do the thing to have the power. And so in terms of your speaking with, being vulnerable, and being intimate with women, you're never going to be ready. You're not going to plan for it. You're going to try it. You're going to do it. And that way you learn, right? Like same thing like riding a bike, right? Like I could talk to you on blue in the face about riding a bike, right? Here's what you do. You sit on it, but you got to make sure you balance it. And then you pedal and then you could hop on that bike and you don't know what the hell's going on because all you did was hear about it. All you did was read about it, right? But until you do it and until you fall down a couple times, until you make a few mistakes, you're going to know nothing about it. And so you go into your question with, do I need to work on myself or just throw myself out there and eventually get hurt? I don't even like the way you phrase that question, but I'm going to break it down for a moment, unpack it. You say, do I need to work on myself or just throw myself out there? That is exactly what I'm talking about. Do you need to read about riding a bike or do you need to just sit your ass on the bike? Right? And that's really what it is. It's like that with everything in life, but in terms of being social, speaking to women, right? Or whatever it is that you're hoping to, do. You got to try it. You got to practice it. You got to get out of your own way. You also say that, I eventually get hurt. You have to be prepared for that. Not necessarily that you need to be guarded against it, but if you're going to be riding a bike, you know that there's a chance that you might fall down. You might scrape your knee, and that's okay. You got to be all right with that. You have to be what's called outcome independent. Outcome independent, meaning I'm going to do what I want to do, and whatever happens, I'm okay with that. And you got to be okay with that. Now, let's back up for a moment because you spoke about fear. I was thinking about this today. When I was with my wife, and I was hugging my wife, and I was saying something to her. I said to her, I was hugging her, right? And I'm so big right now. I'm huge right now. And she's so little. She's thin. She's petite. And I'm hugging her. I was like, I like how fragile you are. I like how small you are. I was like holding her. I was like I could just squeeze her. I just crush her if I wanted to, right? And sometimes I like to hold her a little tight because she's cute. She's small, and I'm strong and I'm big, and and she kind of likes it a little bit sometimes. I like to feel my strength, right? You feel it. I'm holding you tight, baby. Oh, you can't get away from me, right? And as that was happening, I was thinking, why are men afraid of women? Why are men afraid of women? And we're so much bigger than them. We're so much stronger than them. They're little. They're thin. They're skinny fat and whiny. They really are not intimidating at all. They're only intimidating if you have a built up imagination about what they are. And that's what happens. Pop music, movies, they give, and then, the popular culture tries to build women up in a way to make them more arrogant than they really should be. First of all, they think their shit don't stink, a lot of them, right? They think they're so special, right? And they're really not, because if you're special because of your organ, just because you have a vagina, then you didn't do anything to deserve that, right? You didn't do anything to look that way or to have that gash. You were born that way. But they're so arrogant, they're so full of themselves. Why? Because the culture makes them believe that their stuff don't stink and that is worth $1 million. And then men end up believing and behaving that also. So we're intimidated by these frail little skinny fat whiny chicks because of a figment of our imagination. That coupled with, here's how it gets worse, sex. When somebody has something you want, like even if you're trying to sell, right? Like say, I'm a real estate salesman, right? And I really need to sell this house. I need to make this money. I'm desperate. And when I'm desperate, I can't make that sale because now I got bad vibes with the person I'm trying to sell it to. I either am like nervous because, I don't think they're going to like me. They're not going to like the house. I'm not going to close this deal, right? Or I need it so much that I'm like trying to push it. I'm like, come on, like buy this house. It's a great house. So essentially you're putting that person up on a pedestal, right? You're putting them up on a pedestal. And that's a part of what happens with a lot of men, maybe not you, but it's part of what happens with a lot of men in their mind is that they put them up there and then they're afraid. They're afraid, I don't want to disappoint this princess. I don't want to disappoint this special person, right? But to disappoint or maybe even just to get a no out of somebody like that does not ruin your life, does not have any bearing on your life because they have no power over you except in your own imagination. It's it. That's the only place where they hold this power. So any fear that you have is because you made it up. And you're talking about trauma or whatever, right? Deep-rooted fear and trauma. Listen, man, not a single one of us doesn't have deep-rooted fear and trauma. I remember I asked that question to myself today when I was hugging my wife because I used to be afraid of girls. I remember being like 15, 16, whatever. And like, I don't know, I would be like nervous around certain girls, right? Not all girls, but certain girls. Certain girls I would just get nervous around, right? It's because why? Because I have them built up in my mind that there's something special and they have something that I think I need, right? None of which is true. So once we get over that, when you're in a totally different ballpark, you're playing a totally different game, right? The deep-rooted fear, once again, deep-rooted fear, trauma comes from all kinds of things, including what I said earlier about the conditioning from culture, as well as the lack of fathers in our lives, as well as the over-attachment to mommy love in our world. So they've totally perverted the minds of men. I'll add on top of that pornography, right? Because what does porn do? Porn turns women into a ejaculation. You look at a woman and the first thing you're thinking is ejaculation. And you know what's really strange? If you've been jerking off the porn and you try to talk to women, you automatically will carry with you that sense of guilt and shame that from your jerking off and porn watching times, right? It's you talk about deep rooted and unconscious. That's deep rooted and unconscious. Is the fact that you're carrying around porn guilt while talking to a regular girl. So let's go back to see your question a little bit more. Do I need to work on myself or just throw myself out there? Now, you say, do I throw myself out there to get hurt? And then you're talking about wanting to have sex. I can't help but to color this conversation with my intention and my perspective and my opinion on hookup culture and all that. You say, should I ban some random chick or wait for someone who's more right for the situation? I think it's better to wait for someone who's right for the situation. I think it's better to find someone that you want to marry. Let me just get straight to it. I think it's better to wait till you're in a situation where you're with a woman who you're death to us part with. You're gonna make babies with. I would never suggest putting a dick in a woman that you wouldn't have babies with. Don't go boning women that you wouldn't have babies with. Right? That's just another one of my opinions. So I think it's better to wait, right? It doesn't matter how old you are. is good to wait till it's the right woman. Now I understand I'm being a little bit of an old school boomer with this, but all I really mean is it's better to be in a long-term relationship. It's better to be emotionally intimate in like loving someone, caring for someone, committed to someone when you're going to share that experience with them, right? Don't go bang some random chick. I just don't think that makes you a man. I think that makes you an addict. I think that makes you effeminate. I think it makes you weak, in my opinion. Don't go hire a hooker, right? And don't contribute to the degenerate culture, right? There was a time when virgins were honored. It was like, wow, this person's a virgin, and all this, like, saints and stuff. Virgins, right? There was a lot of virtue to being a virgin, right? It wasn't something like today that it's something to be ashamed of, which is weird, right? Because what is there to be proud about when having sex? And sex is so easy these days, right? If you want to have, you already said it, right? You turn these women down. If you wanted to have sex, you could have, and I believe you. What's the pride in that? Taking candy on Halloween? How proud could you be when everybody's giving free candy on Halloween? You didn't earn that. You just walked over there and said, "Give me some." Right? There's no pride in that. There's nothing to be proud about. You know what's something to be proud about? Being married for 50 years and having 6 kids and 16 grandkids. That's something to be proud of. That's legacy. That's how men can use our dicks for legacy. Right now we use our dicks for degenerate stuff. We could use our dicks for legacy. Right? I'm going to grow a legacy with my seed. Right? I think that's a better idea rather than spilling it in a garbage can, in a napkin, or in some used up chick. Make babies, have families, grow a legacy. And that's just my opinion on that, dude. I wouldn't fret so much by the fact that you haven't had sex yet, right? And I wouldn't just go and blow my seed into some random chick. Work on yourself, yes. There's nothing wrong with working on yourself. I said that last week. That's the primary thing that we should be doing. But if you want to get better with, more comfortable around and over your fear of women, you got to practice talking to them, right? You got to practice talking to them. You got to practice being around them. You got to practice being comfortable in their presence. And when you realize that there's nothing that they have that you should be afraid of, there's nothing that they can do that you can be afraid of. They can't do anything to you but tell you no. Then you just go, right? That's what they say in sales, right? You got to work on the no's, right? You got to get through all the no's to get a yes. No, 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 yes. And you go through all those no's so you can get to that yes, right? And that means you have to have thick skin. So that's my opinion, man. I hope that helps, dude. Done. Yo, it's your bro Elliot. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, you ought to know that it was a clip from one of my most recent King Transformation classes with my students, where, among other things, we get together about 4 or 5 hours a week and we speak on things as it relates to becoming kings in our lives in fitness, business, and with women. If that sounds like you and you want to join a like-minded group of men who are growing stronger every day, in every way in this degenerate age, then it's real simple. Just follow me on Instagram, and then DM me the word King, K-I-N-G, and then me and my team will get back to the details to see if you qualify. I really hope to see you at the next meeting. Done.